The war was over. At least that's what they told him. Drew, a human soldier, stood in the grand hall of the alien city governor's palace. The walls were tall, glowing with strange purple crystals. Alien guards lined the sides, their sharp armor shining under dim lights. Everyone stared at him. He had risked his life for this world, helped save the alien capital from raiders, protected civilians, and stopped a rebel attack. Now they were giving him a reward, but this was not the reward he expected. The governor, a tall, snake-like creature with golden eyes, spoke with a twisted smile. "Human, you have served well. We offer you something special." A door opened. 2 guards came in, dragging a chained woman behind them. She stumbled forward barefoot, dirty and barely covered in torn cloth. Her hands were bound in thick iron cuffs, a heavy collar around her neck. She didn't look up. Her skin was a soft shade of silver blue, glowing faintly even in the shadows. Her hair was long, tangled, and dark like night. "This," the governor, sighed, "is Solari, a war slave, yours now for entertainment." Or whatever else humans do. Laughter echoed across the hall. The alien nobles enjoyed the joke. Drew didn't laugh. He looked at the girl on the ground. She was breathing hard, shaking slightly. Her knees were scraped. Her thin arms had bruises. But what hit Drew the most was her eyes, empty, lifeless, like she had given up. He stepped forward slowly. She flinched. He stopped. "She's afraid," Drew said quietly. The governor shrugged. "Of course. She's been trained to obey." The nobles laughed again. Drew's jaw tightened. He looked at the chains, then looked into her eyes. "Take off her chains," he said. The hall fell silent. "What did you say?" The governor hissed. "I said," Drew repeated louder, "take off her chains. Now." The alien guards froze. The nobles stared, confused and annoyed. No one expected the human to say that. "She's not a thing," Drew continued. "You called it a reward, but what you gave me is a person." The governor's smile disappeared. "You insult our gift?" "No," Drew said. "But I won't accept it like this." He knelt down in front of her. The girl didn't move. She didn't speak. She just waited, her head low like she expected pain. Drew slowly reached out and touched the metal cuff on her wrist. She gasped. For the first time, her eyes lifted wide, confused, scared. His hand was warm, not rough, not angry, just gentle. "I'm not going to hurt you," he whispered. She blinked. One tear slipped down her cheek. A few guards stepped forward to stop him, but the governor raised his hand. "Let him play his little human game," he said coldly. Drew stood up, turned to face them all, and spoke loudly. "If this is a gift, then I'll accept it my way." Back at his shelter outside the city, Drew helped the girl inside. She didn't speak. She didn't even sit until he pointed to a soft chair. Then slowly, she lowered herself down like she thought it was a trick. He brought her a clean blanket and a bottle of water. She didn't take it at first. She stared at the bottle like it was poison. Then she looked at Drew, searching his face. "No tricks," he said. "It's just water." She reached out with shaking hands. The bottle slipped, and some water spilled, but she drank, fast, like she hadn't had real water in days. Drew watched in silence. He wanted to ask her questions, her name, what they did to her, where she came from. But he didn't single quotes T. Instead. He spoke gently. "You're safe now. You can rest here. No one's going to chain you again." She stared at him for a long moment. Then for the first time she spoke. Her voice was dry, low, and soft. "Why are you doing this?" Drew sat down across from her and answered simply, "Because someone should have." That night, as he closed his eyes, he kept thinking of her face. The fear, the surprise when he touched her. The chains. She had been treated like an animal. But there was a person inside, silent, broken, but still alive. He didn't know what would happen next. But he knew one thing. He wouldn't let anyone hurt her again. The storm outside had stopped. But inside the shelter, the silence was loud. Drew stood by the kitchen table, holding a warm bowl of food in his hand, simple soup, the kind humans made when they were trying to comfort someone. Behind him on the old couch, Silari sat like a shadow, still, quiet, and alert. She hadn't moved much since arriving. She had taken a few sips of water earlier, but not a word after that. Her silver blue eyes followed every movement Drew made, like she was waiting for something bad to happen. Drew slowly walked toward her with the bowl. He didn't speak. He simply knelt and placed the bowl on the small table in front of her. She didn't reach for it. Instead, she flinched. Her hands shot up to protect her face. As if she thought he was going to hit her. Drew froze. His heart cracked. A little. No, he said softly, holding both palms up. I won't hurt you, never. She stayed frozen, arms still up like a shield. A small tremble passed through her body. Drew backed away slowly and sat across the room. He watched. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Finally she lowered her hands and looked at the food. Her eyes didn't blink. She stared at it like it was a puzzle. Then, carefully, like someone afraid of a trap, she leaned forward, picked up the spoon, and took a tiny bite. Her eyes widened. Another bite. And another. Soon, she was eating like a starving child, fast, desperate, and messy. Soup spilled down her chin, but she didn't stop. Her breathing quickened. Drew stood up and grabbed a towel. She saw him moving and dropped the bowl in fear. It's okay, he said quickly. It's just a towel. He stopped. Her shoulders were shaking. Was she crying? Not loudly. Just silent tears. Not from pain, from shock. She wiped. Her mouth uncurled into the corner of the couch, hugging herself tightly. You're not used to kindness, Drew said quietly. Are you? She didn't answer. But her silence spoke loudly. That night, Drew slept on the floor, giving her the bed. He didn't lock the door, didn't tie her up, didn't give her rules. She was free to leave. But she didn't. Instead, when he woke up in the middle of the night, he found her sitting near the fire, staring into the flames. Her hands were open, hovering over the warmth like she was afraid to touch it. Drew slowly sat up. You okay? He asked. She didn't answer. He looked at her closely. Her neck still had red marks from the collar. Her wrists were raw from the iron cuffs. Her feet were blistered. She looked like someone who had been treated worse than a creature. Do you remember who you were before they chained you? He asked gently. She turned her head just a little. Then she spoke, barely above a whisper. I was Silari, daughter of Lord Virion. I wore silk robes. I danced under moonlight. I laughed. With sisters. Her voice broke. Her fingers curled. Then war came. We lost. They sold me. I forgot my name. Drew felt anger rising inside him, not at her, but at the monsters who did this. You don't have to forget anymore, he said. You're not a slave now. She looked at him with tired eyes. You say that. She whispered. But what? Am I really, if I don't know how to be anything else? In the morning, she tried to help clean the place. She fumbled with simple things, washing dishes, folding a blanket, but she watched Drew closely and copied what he did. Her movements were slow, careful, like she feared punishment for doing something wrong. At one point, she spilled some water by accident and dropped to her knees instantly. I'm sorry, she cried out, hands up. Drew ran over and knelt beside her. It's okay, it's just water, no one's mad. She looked up confused. No punishment? He smiled gently. No punishment. She stared at him like he was a strange creature. Then, something amazing happened. She smiled. Just a little. Just for a second. But it was the first smile he had seen from her, and it almost broke him. That night, as the two of them sat near the small fire again, she asked a question. Why do you do this? Drew looked at her. What do you mean? Why treat me like a person? He leaned back and looked at the ceiling. I don't know, he said. Honestly, maybe because someone has to. Maybe because I saw something in your eyes that told me you were still in there. Not gone, just waiting. She was quiet for a long time. Then softly she said, no one has looked at me like that in years. But even as she began to trust him, even as she started walking around without fear, something still lingered in the air, a shadow. Drew knew this alien world wouldn't just let her go so easily. He knew people would come looking, and when they did, he would have to choose. Stay safe or protect her, even if it cost him everything. The sunlight touched her face, but she didn't smile. She was sitting by the window, wrapped in a blanket, watching birds fly across the pale orange sky. Solari didn't understand why they were free, why they could just move. With no master, no orders, no punishment, why don't they stay in one place? She asked softly. Drew, sitting on the other side of the room, looked up from fixing a broken lamp. Birds? He asked. She nodded. Because they're free, he said. They go where they want. Solari tilted her head. And no one tells them where to go? No one. She looked confused. Then, how do they know what they are supposed to do? Drew set the lamp down and walked toward her. He sat nearby, not too close. You don't need someone to tell you who you are, he said gently. She looked down, as if ashamed. I don't know who I am anymore. I only know how to follow. That day, Drew gave her space. He didn't give instructions. He didn't tell her what to clean or where to sit. He just let her exist. And she didn't know what to do with that. She stood in the middle of the room for hours, frozen. No one shouted. No one gave orders. She was lost without rules. Later, when Drew brought her a dress, simple, clean, soft fabric, she didn't take it. What is this for? She asked. It's for you, he replied. To wear. She looked at her torn old slave clothing. I already have clothes. You deserve better, he said. She looked into his eyes for a long time, then whispered, Do I? That night, Drew lit a small fire again and sat with her. She was quiet as always, but then asked, If I'm not a slave, then what am I? You're Solari, Drew said. But that name belonged to someone else, someone who danced and laughed. That girl is gone. Maybe, Drew said, or maybe she's still inside you, just waiting for the chains to fall off. She didn't reply. Instead, she asked, What if I mess up? What if I say or do the wrong thing? Drew smiled. Then you learn. That's how freedom works. Freedom. She whispered, like it was a word she had never used before. She stared into the fire. The last time I made a choice on my own, I trusted someone. And they sold me. The next morning, she tried to cook. She burned the bread, oversalted the soup, nearly knocked over the pan. Drew walked in, sniffed the air, and smiled. Smells like progress. Solari looked embarrassed. I ruined everything. No, you didn't. You tried. That's enough. She looked down. Are you sure I'm not just broken? Drew stepped closer. No, you're healing. Later, while walking with her through the nearby market square, Solari froze. Across the road, an alien noble was laughing loudly with 2 guards. He wore rich armor and a symbol on his belt. Solari's body stiffened. That's the house that sold me, she whispered. Drew noticed her hands shaking. He gently moved between her and the noble, blocking her from view. You're safe, he said quietly, but Solari's eyes stayed fixed. If he sees me, he'll take me back. No, Drew said firmly. He won't. She turned to him. How can you be so sure? Drew met her gaze. Because I won't let anyone chain you again, ever. That night, back in the safety of their small home, Solari finally asked, Do I belong to you now? Drew shook his head. No, then. Why do you protect me? He looked at her tired, scared, but trying to be strong. He could see it. The fire was still there, somewhere deep inside her. Because you deserve to live, he said. Not just survive, but live. With joy, with choices, she looked away, blinking fast. No one's ever said that to me, he smiled. Then, I'll say it again. In the dark, just before sleep, Solari whispered one more thing. If I'm free, can I choose to stay with you? Drew opened his eyes. Yes, he said. And if you ever choose to leave, I'll still protect you from afar. She nodded slowly, and this time, it wasn't fear in her eyes, it was hope. It started with a knock, not gentle. Not polite. It was heavy, sharp, like a hammer striking the door. Drew looked up from the table. Solari, who had just begun smiling during meals, froze in place. Her hand trembled as she held the cup of tea he made for her. 3 more knocks. Boom. 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 Then silence. Drew slowly stood and walked to the door. He didn't open it right away. He pressed his ear close. He heard breathing deep and heavy just outside. Stay behind me, he whispered to Solari. She nodded and backed away, her heartbeat pounding louder than the knocking. Drew unlocked the door and cracked it open. 2 alien guards stood there, armored and cold-eyed. Behind them was a noble in dark blue robes, a cruel smile on his face. You have something that belongs to House Dressel, the noble said, stepping forward without waiting to be invited in. We've come to take her back. Drew didn't move. She doesn't belong to anyone, the noble smirked. She's registered property, a slave under contract. You may have forgotten the laws of our planet, human, but I haven't. She's not property anymore, Drew said. She's free. The noble's eyes darkened. Freedom is not yours to give here. Behind Drew, Solari's breathing grew faster. Her hands clutched the edge of the wall. She remembered that voice. He was the one who first sold her. Bring her out, the noble ordered his guards. They stepped forward. Drew blocked the doorway. If you touch her, I will stop you. The guards laughed. You? Alone? Drew didn't answer. He punched the first one so hard his helmet flew off. The second guard raised a shock baton. Drew ducked and drove his elbow into the alien's ribs, then slammed the door shut and locked it. He turned fast. Solari, out the back now. But she didn't run. Instead, she stood with a look he hadn't seen before. She was angry. The front door shattered open with a blast. Drew grabbed a metal rod from the floor, once part of his old equipment, and stood ready. The guards rushed in. Drew struck one in the leg, dodged a blade, then took a hit to his shoulder. He groaned but didn't fall. The fight was rough, fast, wild. Then suddenly, a scream cut through the air. But it wasn't Solari screaming. It was one of the guards. She had grabbed a broken chair leg and stabbed it into his side. The second guard turned on her. Drew, filled with fury, tackled him to the ground and slammed his fist into the alien's face again and again, until the man stopped moving. The noble outside hissed and backed away, realizing they had failed. You'll regret this, human, he shouted as he retreated. Drew stood at the doorway, bleeding, breathing hard. Not as much as you will if you ever come back. Inside, the shelter was a mess. Broken chairs, scattered dishes, blood. Drew leaned against the wall, holding his shoulder. Solari rushed to him. You're hurt. He gave a weak smile. I've had worse. You shouldn't have fought alone, she said, shaking her head. You weren't alone either, he replied, smiling. She blinked. I didn't think. I just couldn't let them take you. Drew touched her cheek gently. You saved me, she swallowed hard. They'll come again. I know. Silence. Then she whispered, I don't want to run anymore. Then we won't. She looked into his eyes. So, what do we do? Drew looked out the broken door, then back at her. We make them see you're not property. You're not a slave. We make the whole planet see that you're mine. Not By force, not by chain, but by choice. Solari's breath caught in her throat. His words struck something deep inside her. Her voice trembled as she asked, "You would claim me like that? In front of them all?" Drew nodded. "Not as a thing, not as a reward. As my equal." She stepped closer, then whispered, "Then let them come. I won't hide behind walls again." That night, even with wounds and broken furniture, something new lived in the room. Not fear, not silence, but strength, and a strange feeling that neither of them dared name yet, but it was there, growing, waiting. It was the first time he had heard her laugh, not a loud laugh, not wild, just a soft, warm sound like a quiet bell ringing in a cold room. Solari was sitting at the small table in the morning light, trying to slice fruit with a kitchen knife that was far too dull. She struggled, and the pieces came out crooked. Drew raised an eyebrow and teased, "That fruit's gonna need therapy." She laughed, not because the joke was good, it wasn't, but because, for once, she felt safe enough to laugh. Drew froze. For a moment, he didn't speak, he just smiled. That sound, her laugh, meant something had changed. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was living. And then, the message came. The small alert light blinked on his comm unit. "Government seal, urgent notice." Drew tapped the screen. The words appeared slowly, line by line. "Human citizen Drew Walker, you are in illegal possession of registered alien property, designated Slave Class 47B, under Section 9 of the Interplanetary Labor Contract Act. You are ordered to surrender the asset known as Solari to central authorities within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in arrest and forced retrieval." The room went silent. Solari stopped laughing. Her eyes slowly moved to the blinking message. Her shoulders sank. Her face turned pale. Drew didn't even blink. He deleted the message. She looked at him, her voice shaking. "They called me an asset." "They can call you whatever they want," Drew said firmly. "You're not going back." "But the law is wrong," he snapped, then softened his voice. "You're not a slave, not anymore." That afternoon, word spread fast. Whispers in the streets. Side glances in the market. "Did you hear? The human broke contract law. They say he claimed the girl as his own. He's in danger." "So is she." Drew felt the shift. The air was different. He wasn't just an outsider now. He was a target, but he didn't run. Instead, he walked straight into the city's legal archives, a place filled with dusty records, glowing scrolls, and ancient alien laws. The keeper of the archives, an old many-eyed alien, stared at Drew like he was insane. "You dare challenge property law?" "I don't need to challenge it," Drew said. "I need to use it." That night, Drew returned home with something in his hand. A tiny silver pendant, an old symbol from a forgotten treaty between Earth and the ruling alien government. A loophole, one that could protect her. But it came with a price. To shield you from being labeled property, Drew said. "You have to be more than my guest." She looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" He held the pendant up. "You'd have to be registered under protection status. The only way that applies to a non-citizen is if you're family. By blood," he hesitated, "or by marriage." The room fell silent. Solari's hands trembled. "You want to marry me? I want to keep you safe," he said. "But not just that. I care about you. I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you first tried to cook. Maybe when you stabbed that guard. Maybe when you smiled this morning." She stepped closer. "You're not doing this out of pity?" She asked. "No," he whispered. "Out of choice." She took the pendant from his hand, held it, looked at it like it was made of fire and ice all at once. Then she looked up, her voice shaking but clear. "Then let it be choice. Let me choose you." But outside their home, far beyond their quiet firelight, others were watching. The noble who tried to take her, the ones who profited from slaves. The ones who feared what this human was starting. They gathered in silence, reading the same government message, and one of them said, "If they marry, we lose her forever. That human cannot be allowed to change the law with love." Asterisk, she stood in front of a mirror, one that didn't belong to her, wearing a dress she had never dreamed of, on a planet where no one thought she deserved to be. More than a tool, but today, she wasn't a slave. Today, Solari was a bride. The mirror was cracked. The dress was old, stitched together from cloth Drew had found. There were no flowers, no music, no family to walk her down an aisle. But there was something far more powerful. Choice. And a man standing on the other side of the room, waiting with a pendant in his hand and a fire in his heart. Outside, the city buzzed with quiet anger. Rumors spread like fire. The human is marrying her? He's mocking our laws. They're trying to break the system. Alien nobles, officials, and slaveholders watched from afar, whispering in their towers, but none of them could stop it, because Drew had found a forgotten clause in a dusty treaty. If a human citizen marries a non-citizen, that person is granted full protection under Earth Alliance laws. They cannot be sold, cannot be claimed, cannot be harmed without consequence. A loophole, but a powerful one. The ceremony was short, just a quiet moment under the stars. Just them, two witnesses from Drew's side. No fanfare, no audience. Just a warm fire, a metal pendant, and two people standing under the night sky. Drew placed the pendant around her neck. "With this, I protect you, not as a master, as a partner." Solari took his hands and whispered, "With this, I choose you, not as a savior, as a man." There were no vows, no rings, but when their hands touched, the warmth in her chest was real. She had been chained. Now she was claimed, but by love, not forced. Later that night, Drew placed his coat over her shoulders as they sat near the fire outside the shelter. She leaned into him gently. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "I don't feel afraid right now. And that scares me." He looked at her. "Why?" "Because when something feels safe," she said, "something always comes to take it away." Drew didn't argue. Instead, he said quietly, "Then let them come. I've already chosen my side." And they did come. The very next morning, a government patrol arrived, armed, cold, unsmiling. Human Drew Walker. The lead officer said, "We received word you illegally prevented the transfer of registered property. She's not property." Drew interrupted, holding up the official marriage document. The officer scanned it, frowned. "This is a binding contract under the Earth Treaty," the officer admitted. "But the High Council will want to review it. There may be consequences." Drew crossed his arms. "Tell them to bring their best lawyers." That night, while political storms raged in the city, Solari sat alone outside, staring at the stars. She touched the pendant around her neck. She had once believed chains were her only future, that love was a myth, that freedom was dangerous. Now, everything was different. She felt something rising inside her, something that had been locked away for years. Dignity. Not because someone gave it to her, but because someone saw it in her when she couldn't see it herself. She turned and walked back inside, where Drew was waiting. "I want to learn to read," she said. Drew smiled. "Then I'll teach you." But far away, in a stone hall full of angry nobles, the High Council sat in silence. One of them finally spoke. "This marriage sets a dangerous example." Another added, "If more humans start doing this, we lose control of the entire trade system." The eldest among them stared at the glowing document Drew had submitted and said only one thing: "If we cannot destroy the contract, then we must destroy the girl." She didn't scream. When they came in the night, dark figures with silent boots and metal hands, Solari didn't cry, didn't beg. She simply looked at them with the calm of someone who had already survived hell once. But as they dragged her Out of the home she had finally made her own, she whispered a single word into the night. Drew. And then she was gone. He woke up too late. The front door was shattered again. Burnt marks on the floor. A single metal shard left behind marked with the crest of the High Council's secret unit. Drew stared at it. Not in shock. Not in fear. In rage. He didn't speak. He just stood, packed his weapon, pulled on his gear, and whispered, I told them. No one chains her again. He tracked the drops of blood in the dirt, the broken branches, the path through the forest. His training kicked in. Silent steps, steady breathing, focus like fire. They thought he was just a man. They forgot he was a soldier. Hours later, he reached the old mining station, abandoned for years, hidden under a rocky hill. Perfect for secrets. Guards at the door. 2. Tall, armed. He didn't wait. Drew struck like lightning, took one down with a silent blade, used the body to knock the other into the wall. Fast, brutal, precise. He slipped inside. Inside, the halls smelled of oil and pain. And then he heard it. A voice. Her voice. I am not your property. His heart stopped. Another voice replied. Cold, noble, familiar. You were born a prize. That human filled your head with lies. He gave me something you never could choice. Drew moved faster. He reached the final chamber, and there she was, chained again, but this time standing tall. Her wrists were bound, but her eyes were burning with fire. She faced the noble from House Dressel, the same one who once dragged her across the palace floor, and she wasn't afraid anymore. Let her go, Drew said, stepping out of the shadows. The noble turned, surprised, but too late. Boom. Drew fired. Not to kill. Just enough to knock the sword from the noble's hand. You can write your laws, Drew growled. You can build your councils. But if you lay one more hand on her... He took another step forward. I will burn it all down. The noble snarled. She belongs to our order. She was purchased, branded. Drew pulled the treaty paper from his coat. And now she's my wife, protected by interplanetary law. If you harm her again, the Earth Alliance will come for your entire city. Salari looked at him, eyes wide, heart pounding. Drew. He turned to her. Did they hurt you? She shook her head. No, I didn't let them. He walked to her, broke the cuffs with a sharp strike from his blade, and caught her as she collapsed into his arms. She clung to him, not as a prisoner, but as a woman who had been fought for. On the way out, alarms blared. They were surrounded. But they didn't run. They fought together, side by side. She moved like a warrior now. Not the broken girl who once flinched at food. She dodged. She struck. She roared. And Drew, bloodied but standing, watched her rise from the ashes of who she used to be. They made it out together. Weeks later, back at their rebuilt home, a message arrived. Case dismissed. Marriage recognized. The High Council will not interfere. Again, Salari read the message and smiled. So, we won? Drew took her hand. No, we just began. That night, under a quiet sky, she sat beside him at the fire. She wore no chains now, only a pendant and a smile. I once thought no one would ever see me as anything but a thing, she said softly. And now? Drew asked. She looked at him, eyes glowing like starlight. Now, I see myself. He leaned closer. You know what I see? She raised an eyebrow. What? A survivor. A warrior. And the woman I'll spend the rest of my life protecting. She laughed, then whispered, You're not protecting me anymore, Drew. He blinked. She smiled wider. Now we protect each other.